Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ring Ready Live, the home of the owner handler, brought to you by Showsite Magazine. I'm Dan Sayers here with Lee Whittier, the dog show mentor. And today is episode 4 of our live conversation about all things that matter to you, the owner handler. Today's topic is one that I think you're going to be very interested in. But before we get to that, I just want to again welcome you back. If this is your 4th visit to Ring Ready Live, we're happy to have you join us again. And if this is your first time, I really want to welcome you and let you know that you're in for a treat, that you're going to be able to spend time with the dog show mentors. So wherever you are, I encourage you to sit back and relax. Take these 30 minutes to really enjoy some time talking about what is important to you. And so why don't you turn off your devices, maybe pour yourself another cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine, depending on where you are. It's never too early for the glass of wine. And again, I want to encourage you to participate in this conversation. For 30 minutes, you have Lee Whittier's undivided attention. So wherever you are, feel free to leave a comment for Lee. Leave a question if you have one. We'll do our best to get to it today. And if not, you can reach Lee at Ring Ready Magazine, or Ring Ready rather, at showsitemagazine.com. And you can also reach Lee by becoming a member of Dog Show Mentor or joining your Facebook page, Lee. So before we get started, why don't you tell our listeners, new and old, a little bit about Dog Show Mentor and your Facebook page?
Well, we have an open but private Facebook page called Dog Show Mentor Owner Handlers, and just ask to be a member. And we have a private space where you can talk about and ask questions about breeds and questions about dog shows, and pretty much anything that comes up that I can answer, I will answer. So I try to always respond to people's posts, and I hope that you'll come and be part of that. It's a great scene.
It is a great scene. And again, there's no foolish or stupid question, is there, Lee? You know, if you have a question, there's probably someone else who has the same question. So don't be shy. Reach out. It's really important to ask those questions, isn't it, Lee?
Well, it is. And I've created this safe place for owner handlers to ask me questions, and they're from all levels. I just had someone join who's a 30-year breeder, and she's always wants to learn. When I've done open webinars, I've had people come from, all levels, and people that are 30 years in the sport, and they say, I just want to keep learning. And so that's the attitude that we all have. And when someone comes that's new or is a novice, we embrace you and say, come on in and ask the questions that you have. And maybe we can hook you up with somebody in your area who you can meet and talk to and learn from. So it's an interactive group, and, feel free to come.
Well, thank you for that. And I encourage everyone to join Lee in those conversations. So before we get to this week's topic, Lee, we have a few questions from last week that address some of the things that we as owner handlers are always told about showing to judges. So that first question that we have is, Lee, is it true that a handler's job is to sell their dog to the judge?
Well, that's an interesting question. And the answer is yes and no. And I answer yes and no so many times because there's so little, I think, in dogs that is hard line on one side or the other, that everything is depending on who the person is and what their goals are. So, if you're new and you just want to get some experience and have fun with your dog, and you're not in the place yet where you're really highly competitive, then you're selling your dog to the judge is going to be less important to you than someone who is highly motivated and extremely dedicated and has a little bit of experience. And those people are going to want to sell their dog. And what that means is, look, this is a functional beauty contest. Imagine you're a contestant on a stage in a beauty contest. What are you doing? You're branding yourself, you're selling yourself, not in that old-fashioned way, but in that additional way of, here's what we have to offer. I mean, when you go to a car lot, even those brand new cars, those salesmen are out there in their spare time washing them and shining the windshield and cleaning them, making sure that they're beautiful, and they want to show you all the attributes when you take your test drive, right? Well, it's sort of like that in that, this is a functional beauty contest where you want to sell your dog's virtues to the judge. And then the other side of that, well, no, it's not your job, is that it is the judge's job to find the best dog. But we can only see that if you show it to us. Mm. So there's always a certain level of selling. Even novices often know if their dog has a beautiful head, they'll try to show it to you. And it may not be the most effective way, but you know that person is showing you, God, I love my dog's head, or I love my dog's body. They'll look at the part of their dog that they love. So there's always a certain level of salesmanship, shall we say. And that, again, that's going to depend on the handler. Now, I could go on further on this, but I think that you probably have another question for me.
I do. And before I get to it, what you said made me realize some people do think that selling is sort of a negative thing. And yet we're all selling all day long, every day. We're selling ourselves to our neighbors, to the grocer, to our family. Selling is really just kind of how we get through life, in a sense.
We're sharing who we are, right? So we're sharing that essence of who we are, whether we're, as you say, with the neighbor or at a dog show. And we're also sharing the essence of our dog and the essence of their breed type.
Without a doubt.
I told you I could go on to.
I know these conversations could be half a day rather than half an hour for sure. But let me get to the second question from last week. That's kind of related, but Lee, it's often said that the handler needs to become invisible to the judge. Is this true?
Well, this is one of my favorite topics, Dan. I think the handler should be visible, right? Visible, but there's a subtle difference between visible and invisible. So it's not that person isn't there, because from the inside the ring, from, as a judge, as a coach, as an owner handler, I'm looking at it from the inside out. And you're not so much becoming invisible, but you're providing a backdrop for the art that is your dog, right? So if you're if you see an artist put their painting on an easel, they'll often drape it, right? And you see the drape, but it's not interfering with what you want to see in the painting. And it's the same thing with the dog. You don't want to interfere by being highly visible, but you're not invisible. You should be invisible in that the judge should just be laser focused on the dog, right? You want to be so much of a backdrop that the judge doesn't even want to look at you.
I like that. The judge doesn't want to look at you because the judge can't stop looking at your dog. So your dog is in effect the leading actor. You're a supporting actor. Maybe that's an analogy.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I've often been told, become invisible, become invisible. And then I watch in some rings, breed rings, group rings, the handlers are anything but invisible. In fact, they almost seem to be saying, look at me, look at me. And they may or may not have what I think is a great dog. But I kind of wonder, is the judge, are you distracted? Can you be distracted maybe by?
Well, you can be distracted, of course. I think that as a judge, I have learned not to be distracted because my breed was Rottweilers. I started judging Dobermans and Danes, and Dobermans is a big showy breed, right? And the handlers are always really, in essence, if we go by my definition, they're really interfering with that painting that is the dog. But there's an enhancement going on. So I think that as a judge, judges learn how to let the distraction go by them. For me, it's not ideal. It's actually sometimes it's a little annoying. I shouldn't say that, but in reality, it can be for me. But you learn to look past it and just focus on the dog.
Focus on the dog. That's what we're all there to do. And we only have a short time to do that. So since you are a best in show judge, a judge of several AKC groups, working, terrier, toy, non-sporting, I think I have that right, as well as several other individual breeds. Bouvier is one of them. But from your perspective as the judge, what do owner handlers need to understand about ring procedure from your point of view? How can they work to understand what's it like for you in the center of the ring? What do they need to know from your perspective about ring procedure specifically?
Okay, now I am just speaking for myself. I can't imagine that other judges don't feel this way, but I'm always bewildered when exhibitors who I know are experienced don't pay attention to who the judge is and what they're looking for. They don't pay attention to what the judge has asked them to do, what the other 30 exhibitors before them were asked to do. So ring procedure, when I ask someone to go down and back and they do so and they are 2 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right, I wonder what's going on in this person's mind. And so it's really a question. There are really a lot of questions to ring procedure. And so each judge has a different procedure. Mine is, I want to see the dog go around, just let it relax, and then set it up, and then, go over it and evaluate it standing. And I put the dog to the side. So I've already seen the dog go around by itself, and I've seen it go down and back. And I put it to the side, and I've got in my mind, okay, what I just saw. What were the dog's virtues? Did he have any faults? On to the next dog. So for me, it's a very specific ring procedure because I always want to make sure that I've seen the dog in those 3 ways by itself. And it's easy to, I think, with dogs, it used to be that And the old-fashioned way of judging dogs is to have the dogs going around all together in a circle. And I will do that occasionally. I think the trend has been for judges to see the dogs just on their own, and then maybe at the end together. So watch your judge's ring procedure and really try to remember it. And I know from experience that sometimes when we get flooded, when we have that amygdala flood, that we forget what we're doing, and we hear the judge say triangle, we hear the judge say down and back, but we just forget instantly and do something. And sometimes I'll have people, I'm always going to the corner unless the sun is in my eyes or something. And people will go over and back in a different direction. And I'll think, yeah, they're in an amygdala flood. They're stressed. Okay, I get it. And so I try to have compassion for my exhibitors who do that. But I always encourage in Dr. Mentor to really get grounded. Feel your feet under you. Feel your feet. Take some deep breaths before you go in the ring so that you can function. So you can function and not have this jitters or I'm getting a little bit now from ring procedure into some of the things that I love to talk about in terms of stress, fear responses that people go in the ring. So understanding ring procedure is still about, goals, right? We talk about goals at Dog Show Mentor. And what are your goals? If you just want to take the ribbon, if you just want to practice in the ring, some people come in and say, hey, this is his first show. He needs a lot of work. Thanks for being so nice. I get that a lot. And I think, wow, so you brought your dog to a show, you paid $30 or more to train your dog. And I thought, well, in some cases, that's a real deal. That's a real value because you can't get that anywhere else. But is your goal to win that day, or is your goal to use it as a training session? So you can learn from osmosis. A lot of beginners and novices will come to the ring. They'll just do whatever the judge says, and they'll learn ring procedure like that. They'll learn how to take direction and what's expected. Go stand by the one, because we want everyone to know that you were first or you were best of breed. We want everyone to know that. So that's why you go over to the one and you don't just stand somewhere near to the judge to wait for your ribbon. If your goal is to really up your game, to really be a force to be reckoned with, you want to notice the judge's ring procedure. You want to know why they do what they're doing. They want to understand that the judge has to have decisive decision making. So make it easy for the judge to point to your dog. Make your dog look beautiful. Show the virtues. Get out of the dog's way, right? Be that backdrop. All those things go into how the judge can then quickly evaluate your dog, right? And when you make it easy for the judge to make a quick, decisive decision, then that's going to help you understand ring procedure and win more in the ring.
You mentioned, excuse me, your job as a judge is to make quick and decisive decisions, or that's what you hope to do. So is it true, and I may have asked you this previously, but is it true that you only have 2 minutes for every dog? That's a lot, not very much time. You only have 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, so here's the answer to that. Depends. So if you're a new judge, AKC says, look, you're a new judge, you're going to get a little more time. You're going to do 2 minutes a dog, 3 minutes a dog, you're going to judge 20 dogs an hour. The superintendents are required to ask you how many dogs an hour you want to judge. So I judge 25 dogs an hour. That's what I'm comfortable with. I like that. So that's 2.4 minutes a dog. And that includes getting the dog in the ring, marking the dog present, looking at the dog, gating all the individual dogs. You're getting the picture. Now I've got to make a decision, not just on the best of breed dog, but often if I'm standing there looking at the lineup, I'm deciding who's going to go select, if I haven't decided that yet, who's going to be opposite, who's going to be best of winners. And all the while I'm keeping in my mind, if I've got a big entry and it's really hot outside and it's an outdoor show, I've made the winner's dog and winner's bitch leave the ring. It's like, go leave the ring, stay in the shade. I'm going to evaluate these dogs here. Remember to bring them back, evaluate them. Maybe I'm going to make one of them best of breed. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's just best of winners. So I have to decide that. So there are a lot of decisions that have to be made instantly, really fast. So make it easy for the judge to point to your dog, because they have to be decisive and make the right choices, right? We want to find the best dog.
And hopefully that's your dog.
Hopefully that is your dog.
Yes. We have got a lot of people joining us this week, and we've got several questions, Lisa. If you have some time, I want to see if we can get to some of these questions today. And I want to thank everyone for their questions. In terms of not being a distraction for your dog, Lee, what about what we wear in the ring? Is there anything that you can advise owner handlers about what to wear, what not to wear?
Absolutely. And I've done 2 master classes on this topic because I get asked it a lot. And I did one in 2016 and I just updated it for the 21st century, the 2020s. Wear something that doesn't distract from your dog, that's not flowy and hitting the dog in the face when you move. Make sure when you bend over, if you're a woman, there's nothing showing in the front, and make sure there's nothing showing in the back when you bend over as well. There's a really cool meme that went around of showing just that. A woman
Yes.
looking, making sure that she was covered. And I just think that that's, it depends on you and how adventuresome you are, but I think that can be distracting. So I would just stay covered. What we're wearing now is really more casual than ever. There are lots of casual shows. And I think lots of judges want to still wear what they've always worn, a jacket and a skirt or jacket and slacks, for either men or women. But we are getting more things like, I've seen some cute styles that owner handlers and professional handlers will wear, and they create their own brand, they create their own style. So maybe some have a sweater top, maybe some have a vest. It could be like a winter style vest. They have cute vests now at all the little stores. Or it could be a summer lightweight vest. So there are lots of ways that you can brand yourself. And so that even when the judge isn't looking at your face, there's a familiarity of the style. If you tend to show a lot and you're around a lot. And that isn't going to make the judge point to your dog, but there is that factor of familiarity that plays with the subconscious mind, I think. Now let's talk about what to wear in terms of a suit. So the suits are still popular. The same tones and colors, or just a jacket and skirt, are still popular. Just make it as simple as possible so that it doesn't interfere with your dog.
Don't interfere with your dog. That's simple as that. Well, thank you, Lee. Another question we have is, and Lee, you may have touched on this, but what is something that can improve an owner handler's handling hugely that people tend to forget or don't even know?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Let me see. Something that would improve greatly and a lot of people don't know. Yes. Number one is learn that what I just said before of um, getting yourself together, being grounded before you start doing whatever with your dog. And I like to say, you know what? At least learn how to set up the front and put the collar on, because that's the first thing that the judge sees when they come up to your dog is the head and the front. And so you're looking at the head and you look down and you see a front that's set incorrectly. And that's different for each breed. So I can't say, sometimes they should turn out at, 10 and 2 or 1 and 11. And other times they should have a front like a Frenchie or a Bulldog and be set wider than the rear. So you have to know how your dog should be set. But I would say set up that front properly for your breed before the judge gets on them.
That is an excellent, excellent tip, no matter your breed. I love that. Thank you, Lee. Another question we have is, this is maybe a bit general, but it's important. What is the best way for a new exhibitor to present his or her dog? So last week, or I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a question from someone who hadn't even entered a show. They were a few weeks out from entering their show. And we'd love to hear from that viewer and let us know how your experience was. Hopefully it was a winning experience. But for other people like her, I believe her name may have been Linda, what is the best way for that new exhibitor to present a dog?
Well, I have to be honest. I'm not really sure what the question is because it depends on the breed. And so I think that the way I'm going to answer this is go and read your standard and then read it again and then read it again. So as a new person, you should be reading your standard every day, line by line, and really getting new things all the time out of it and going and cross-referencing that with a dog encyclopedia like either Spira or Gilbert. And so new people should be presenting their dog as the breed's virtues. And if you don't know your standard, you don't know what the virtues are. So I think that as a new exhibitor, that's the key. And the other thing I would suggest is watch the other people in your breed and how they present the dog, and see if you can, between reading the standard and watching, figure out what's your best way to present your breed.
Lee, you started off answering by saying you didn't know how to answer that question, but I think you gave the absolute best answer. And that question came from Lindy. And Lindy, I can't emphasize how lucky you were to have Lee answer that question. I do think everything begins and ends with an understanding of our breed standards. They are what guide you as a judge. They guide you as a breeder, certainly, and they guide you as an owner handler. And as someone who loves reading breed standards, yes, read it every day until you can practically recite it, because that's never going to steer you wrong if you stay focused on the breed standard.
Do I have time for one more comment here?
You do, yes.
So one of the things that I have noticed over the whole time that I've been in dogs is that sometimes you'll hear people say things about your breed standard that aren't true.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened is it's someone who hasn't read the standard for a long time, and they are reciting things that their mentor told them and that they've remembered. And so we tend to retell stories that we've been told, just as in general as people.
Yes.
And so the point I'm trying to make is, if you hear something or someone tells you something that the breed should be, go back and check that with the standard. Don't take that as gospel, because you really you have no idea how many people have gotten the idea of something from somewhere, and it's not correct. And so, and if it is correct, that's great. And you can then go back and say, hey, I went and read the standard, and I love how you said that the standard said that the front should be, broad and deep, for example. And I was looking at my dog, and I was thinking, blah, blah, blah. And comparatively, my dog's front is not broad and deep, or my dog is whatever. So you really start to get the idea of how to enhance what someone has said and really think about it, or maybe challenge it and say, hey, when I read the standard, it said this. And they'll say, no, that's not right. You say, well, yeah, it is. I mean, you have to stand up for what your standard actually says. So if it says that, it's okay to say, no, it actually does say that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Thank you for that, Lee. I think this conversation is really hitting home with a lot of our viewers. So we have a few more questions. So I want to ask you, I know that your time is very valuable, but do you have time for a few more questions from some of our...
How about one more?
Okay.
One more.
I've got one more, and the others, I want to thank everyone for their questions, and we will get to answer. Lee will be answering those next week. But thank you for your questions. We really, really appreciate it and are happy that you're asking them. So I'm going to ask you a question that's specific to one of the groups that you are judging. That's the toy group, and the question is for toy dogs, Lee. When they are lined up, is it preferable to see the handler down on their knees, hand stacking to be perfect, or standing up with a free stack that might not be perfect?
It depends on the breed.
Yes.
So some breeds are never hand stacked. I mean, you just don't see, for example, Cavaliers are only hand stacked on the table, and even then, sometimes not. So it depends on the breed. It depends on your dog. So if your dog is not trained yet to fully stand, if it's a puppy, if it's a young dog, make it look its best and give it support. I mean, one of the big things that I talk about in Dog Show Mentor is supporting your dog's experience in the ring. And I think that if I want to go back to that new person, I want to say this too, to you too, as well as the person who's asking about the toy breeds. Support your dog's experience in the ring, because a lot of times they don't know what's coming, and even experienced dogs can get rattled. I've seen it, and show careers have been lost because handlers were not really paying attention to their dog's sensations at the moment, maybe with a particular judge, or maybe with a young dog stepping on those metal great things that are in buildings. Sometimes that can unsettle a dog. It's really important, really important. Your number one job really in the ring, even before you sell your dog, is to support your dog's experience in the ring. So as far as toy breeds and how to present them, that's it's very breed specific. I like to see a dog free baited if it looks good. I think it's a little silly to not do that if your dog isn't able to look its best. So make your dog look its best, however it is. And now I want to thank everybody because this is really a fun group and an interesting experience. And Dan and I have spent countless hours talking about all different things and sort of sussing out the kind of questions that we might get. And I'm delighted to have your questions all the time. And again, feel free to bring questions to the Dog Show Mentor Owner Handlers Facebook group. And don't forget that you can get the free Blue Ribbon Blueprint on my website, dogshowmentor.org, which I think you already know. So
thanks for your time today, Lee. This was an especially fun conversation. We covered a lot of ground, and I think you've enlightened us to a lot of what you as a judge are hoping to see from the owner handlers in your ring. And thank you for reminding us all that we can reach you at dogshowmentor.org. And also, I want to let everyone know that they can visit or read your Q&A with Ring Ready at showsitemagazine.com. You can view the April issue online, and you can find the print issue at show sites if you are with us here in the US. And again, thank you to everyone who submitted a question today. Please, again, feel free to go to Ring Ready at showsitemagazine.com to communicate with me, Dan Sayers, or with Lee Whittier, the Dog Show Mentor. Please join us next.
Well, Dan froze, so I'm going to say.
And I are going to be discussing an interesting topic that is of concern to all owner handlers, we think, and that is, can the owner handler really beat the professional handler? And Lee, I know that you've got something to say about that.
I'm waiting for that one.
So that will be next week. I don't know, Lee, did you have something else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, you know, I wanted to thank our producer behind the scenes, Alex Gebhardt. She has been so helpful in getting the word out to all of you. And please also feel free to thank her in the chat and thank her at Ring Ready show site.
Yes, thank you for that, Lee. And yes, thank you, Alex. Everyone, Alex brings us all together every week. She makes this conversation happen. She makes a lot of things happen behind the scenes, and mostly she makes Lee and I look good every Wednesday with you. So yes, thank you, Alex. Please, if you have a minute, let Alex know how much you're enjoying this show as well. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this week. We'll look forward to seeing you at next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, keep having fun with your dogs.
And see you in the winner's circle.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.